Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Dr. Arnold Nerenberg. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I've been in practice in the state of California since 1974, and I became officially licensed to walk upon this earth in 1941, which is when I was born. Officially arrived. It's been my good fortune to be able to remain here. I had different bumps along the road health-wise, and came back stronger than ever, which is part of the theme of today. The title of today's presentation is The Wonderful, Magnificent Gift of Trials and Tribulations. The wonderful, magnificent gift of trials and tribulations. Many would say it doesn't go together. It's about a wonderful, magnificent gift. Okay, what is it? We're coming in Thanksgiving, then Christmas. What is this magnificent, wonderful gift? Well, it's trials and tribulations. You see, Dr. Nerenberg, are you finally losing your mind? Who wants to have trials and tribulations and suffering and difficulties? Nobody in his right mind wants it. So I'm not saying you want it. I'm just saying when it arrives, it's a gift. Like, you can look at whatever you're going through. Could be medical, emotional, relationship, stress on the job, legal problems. We're not wishing for it. God, send me these gifts. So we're not saying, God, send me these wonderful gifts. Nobody's saying, well, send it to me. But they arrive on our doorstep. They arrive on my doorstep. They arrive on your doorstep. In the past, it's happened. Could be happening right now for us. And it's going to happen in the future. And not only is it going to happen for us, these trials and tribulations, it's going to come to our children. No one escapes it. It already came for our parents and our grandparents. I'm sure they can tell you hundreds of stories about what they've been through. It's been a lot. And you've been through a lot. Now, it is what it is. Whatever the disaster, the crisis, the failure, the setback, the loss, whatever it is, that's what it is. Nothing can change the reality of what happened in this physical universe. It's history. It happened a minute ago, a year ago. It's done. It can't be undone. Final. There's a finality. It happened, or it's happening now. Now we can complain about it. Say, "Oh my God, why me? How could even be a God if this is happening to me?" We could say it should happen to somebody else. I'm such a good person. Why me? Oh, how am I going to handle this? You could say whatever. Well, I could say whatever. Say I didn't bring this on myself. I'm a good person. This person's to blame. That person's to blame. This situation is to blame. And it all could be true. It can all be totally true. You're a good person. Somebody really added to the problem. Whatever, that could all be true. Not going to disagree with you about any of it. Wherever you want to place the blame, so be it. But it's coming. The trials and tribulations are coming for all of us. Medical, emotional, marital, relationship, on the job, all kinds of stressors, being picked on the job, being overworked on the job, underappreciated, all of it can be true. Now we can look at it as this is a horrible thing and be destroyed by it. Oh, poor me. How could I ever trust anybody again? Heck, how could I even trust my own body? My own body, I went into a cancer, I went into a heart attack, my own body pretty nearly assassinated me. That's happened to me. I had a heart attack, my own body almost killed me. It wasn't a bullet, it was my own blood platelets coagulating, probably some ruptured plaque, and I had a heart attack when I was 61. My own body almost assassinated me. When I was 65, I had prostate cancer. My own body almost assassinated me with that cancer. Thank God I got through it all, came back stronger than ever. The wonderful, magnificent gift of trials and tribulations. Now, the other approach, and sooner or later, I hope you really internalize this. It took me a long time to truly internalize it. Is this thought? There's two ways of phrasing it. You can phrase it with talking about God, or you can talk about without God. So this isn't, I believe in God, so I'm going to phrase it in terms of God, but then I'm going to phrase it in terms of not mentioning God. So I'm going to do it both ways. God, I'm extremely grateful for the magnificent, wonderful gift of trials and tribulations that bring me closer to you. God, I'm extremely grateful for the magnificent, wonderful gift of trials and tribulations that bring me closer to you. So we're not just saying grateful, we're saying extremely grateful. We're not just saying gifts, we're saying wonderful, magnificent gifts. Wow. Because it brings us closer to God. That's when we mostly turn to people when we're going through trials and tribulations. If we never had trials and tribulations, well, many of us might have thought we are God. That's how the ego works. That's vanity. But we might think we're way up there, and then we're brought to our knees, life, circumstances, whatever. We were powerless, and that's where we turn to God. Now, if you don't want to address God, you go, I'm extremely grateful for the magnificent, wonderful gift of trials and tribulations that bring me closer to my higher nature. Or you could say closer to my divine nature, for those who don't want to mention God. I personally use God. I use that name. Now, what does this do? One, it's a truth. It is going to bring us closer. And it changes not what happened, because whatever happened, it's happened. But we realize good's going to come out of this. It's a gift. Everything that happens to us, any loss that happens to us, there's always a gain. Let me give you a case history of one of my patients. This guy came in. He was called a roughneck because he worked in the oil fields. And he was big. He was all tattered up to his chin and cheeks. Powerful looking guy, very intimidating looking, powerful. But I could see he was very sad. You could see him behind his eyes. There were tears locked over there. And in a session, he said to me, Doc, I've lost everything. My wife left me. Make it even worse, she left me for another man. I'm going, wow, that's hard right there. And she took the children. I don't know where they are. I lost my children. Wow. Any normal human being says, wow, it's devastating. You lost your wife to another man, was even worse. And your children. And then he said, I was so stressed out, I couldn't work. I couldn't make the mortgage payments on my house. I lost the house. I lost everything, Doc. That's one of the toughest ones. I mean, death of a child is worse, but that's way, way up there. Losing your wife to another man, your children, you don't know where they are, and then your house. Each of those are trauma. So I said to him that that's a huge loss. That's devastating. Any normal human being would be devastated by that. Any of us. I said, well, what if I told you that there's a best true story that could be told about that would give dignity, nobility, and honor to your life? I said, what? Really? It's just, how can that be? How? Or tell me, I want to know. I said, are you ready for the healing medicines? Yes, I am. I said, it's this. I've lost everything, but I've gained myself. I've lost everything, but I've gained myself. And his face slowly just started lighting up. You see the light, the face changed, the eyes started to glow. And he said, yeah, I have gained myself. You look, actually, I'm not stretching when I say he looked actually happy. And he was like, yeah, I've gained myself. He was walking out at the end of the session, just glowing. He went up to the secretary, he says, you know, I've lost everything, but I've gained myself. Well, he still didn't have his wife, still didn't have his children, still didn't have his house. But he actually felt like he gained himself. I knew that from the conversation we were having before. He really gained himself. Wow. God, I'm extremely grateful for the wonderful, magnificent gift of the trials and tribulations that bring me closer to you. God, he gave the gift. He got a gift from it. He got himself. He lost himself before, just working long hours, you know, really just not focused on his own reality of the family. When he was just out in the oil fields, I thought, I've gained myself. And the thought, God, I'm extremely grateful for the magnificent, wonderful gift of trials and tribulations that bring me closer to you, is a derivative of one of the commandments of honor, which is, I'm grateful for the power I gain from hardship. There's 4 commandments of honor. One of them is, I'm grateful for the power I gain from hardship. And I've talked about the commandments of honor in many other lectures, in fact, almost all of the lectures, what they are and the application and the meaning of them. So one of the derivatives of what I call the warrior's commandment of honor. Now, I'm defining a warrior as a man or a woman who seeks to gain power from hardship. They just put their hand into that dark, muddy, murky waters and pull out a gem. Wow, behold, look what I found in that darkness. That's a warrior seeking to gain power from hardship. Now, another way of approaching that same phenomenon of these trials and tribulations, and you can see how it applies to this gentleman. What's the best true story I can tell myself about my problem? What's the best true story I can tell myself about the problem? So the best true story he can tell himself about the problem was he gained himself. He lost his wife, his children, his house. The best true story, he gained himself. Every time there's a loss, anytime there's a tribulation, anytime there's a failure, a loss of any kind, there's always a gain. Always. Always. You might say, well, I had a loved one die. Where's the gain, Doc? I deal a lot with people having losses. Heck, I've had my losses plenty through death. Where's the gain? I'll tell you what the gain is. When a loved one passes away, which could be a real tragedy, there's no way around that. They become more alive within us than when they were on this earth. That person becomes more alive within us than when they walk physically on this earth. We feel them more emotionally and spiritually than when they were here. Their words come more alive. Their smile, you think about it, it comes to your vision, your inner vision. You have them more. And you have more love and gratitude when a person leaves. You might have appreciated them and loved them a lot when they were here. It's 1,000 times more when they leave. Oh my God, what a beautiful human being. And let's be honest, there's something about everybody that could be annoying. You might have had disputes or disagreements, some things you really didn't like about the person. All that's gone. You don't even think about it. You say, wow, he or she was just beautiful, beautiful human being. How much I loved him, how much I loved her. I had a good buddy. He would get in fights with his wife all the time. I think most of the time they didn't like each other. As a matter of fact, he stayed away from her. He would travel He would go to other countries. He would get a shot in another continent, not another nation, another continent. He didn't want to be around him much because they were pretty annoying on each other. But he loved her. And then she went through a death through cancer. When she left this earth, what he wrote about her, what he said about her, his beloved, and he was so filled with passion and love. And I'm going, wow. Because I know what was going on when she was alive and what was going on with, but wow. You say, are we talking about the same woman? Are we not the same woman that you were married to on this earth? I didn't say this to him, that you couldn't stand most of the time? Are we talking about her? Oh, God. The love, the gratitude, the admiration he had for her. Ah, unbelievable. And it was real. All the things that annoyed him and whatnot. So you might say, oh, it was a big loss. It was a tragedy. And it was. She died of a cancer. It was very painful. But he loved her more then. By far. Admired her more. Respected her more. Cherished her more. So, what was the gain in death of a loved one? All that. But he can't give her a hug or kiss and have a regular conversation with her. That's the loss on the earth. But look at the gain that's there. For all of us. Not just him, for all of us. Now, the gifts that come from this, I'm going to use the phrase the way I use, God, I'm extremely grateful for the wonderful, magnificent gift of the trials and tribulations that bring me closer to you. And then the derivatives, another derivative, what's the best true story I can tell myself about this problem? And as another derivative from the Warrior's commandment of honor, which is, I intend to come back much stronger than ever. Or since I believe in God, I intend to come back much stronger than ever. And that's medicinal. That's like a medicine. It increases. Definitely, I'm doing a study now with over 100 people. It increases 99% of their hope, reported feeling more hope when they hear that when I say that to themselves or when I say that to them. And increases their optimism. Increases hope and optimism. And when you increase, so whatever illness a person is going through, it's a well-established medical fact that optimism enhances prognosis. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's upcoming surgery, whatever. Prognosis is enhanced. So we're looking at thoughts as medicine, words as medicine. Doing a study right now with my patients. I say the goal of your therapy is for you to come back much stronger than ever. And as a therapist, I'm totally committed to helping you come back much stronger than ever. And then I say, does that increase your hope? Yes, definitely. Does it increase your optimism? Yes. Why does it do that? Well, I'm not alone in my struggle, and I trust you. You're a professional. That's the most common answer. There are other answers, but those are the most common answers. So if you have more hope and more optimism. Now, another story to illustrate the point, I had a patient come in, lovely young lady. She came in and she said to me, my son was shot 9 times. He's in stable condition in the hospital. He was shot 9 times. And she was crying. She wasn't holding tears back. She was weeping. My son was shot 9 times by a gang member. 9 times. And I said, wow, I have 7 children. To me, that's a parent's nightmare. I feel so much compassion for you. It's tragedy. That's the reality. It's a tragedy. There's nothing you can say other than that's a tragedy. Your child being shot 9 times. Any normal parent would say, I'd rather be shot 9 times than my child being shot 9 times. So I said to her, after we talked for a while, I said, what if I told you there's a best true story we can tell about your son that will give dignity, nobility, and honor to his life and to yours? She looked like I was from another planet. What? I said, what if I told you there's a best true story about this situation to give dignity, nobility, and honor to your life and to your son's? What is that? I said, just like with the other person, are you ready for the healing medicine? Yes, I'm ready. It's this. They couldn't kill my son. They shot him 9 times. God has a purpose for his life. They couldn't kill my son. They shot him 9 times. God has a purpose for his life. So her face slowly light up, become illumined, her cheeks, her eyes. She said, God does have a purpose. I already knew she believed in God. God does have a purpose for his life. Yeah. Just like what I told you about that roughneck, that other gentleman, she was glowing. She wasn't crying. She walked out, was leaving. Yeah, God does have a purpose for life. I saw her a week later, and she was still glowing. I said, did you tell your son what I said? She said, yeah, he smiled, he laughed, it made her happy. Well, look at the reality here. It didn't change that he was shot 9 times. I mean, that happened, it's done. It's tragedy, a total tragedy. But her son understood, and she understood that God had a purpose for his life. In fact, what she told me later on was he turned more vigorously to God's will after that. He became so much more devoted to God. And look at the legacy. One of the benefits of following this, there's many benefits. One is potentially a legacy of honor. I'm passing down a legacy. You're hearing their stories from me. That's their legacy of honor as told by myself. You, by living with these thoughts, the commandment of honor and its derivatives, can potentially have a legacy of honor. And without suffering, you cannot achieve greatness. It's impossible. You cannot achieve wisdom without it. It's impossible. I'm defining witness as integrating your joys and your sorrows, your gains and your losses into a constructive perspective. You can't achieve wisdom without suffering. It's impossible. You can be comfortable, have a nice life, but you can't achieve wisdom. Unless you've been through that suffering, you can't achieve compassion. So you're getting potentially compassion, wisdom, potentially greatness, legacy of honor. And these thoughts will help you achieve more resiliency. You'll come down, you'll be miserable for a while. I mean, that's normal. But you'll come back up more quickly. And each of the thoughts, the warrior's commandment of honor and all the derivatives I've just told you about, will increase your hope and your optimism. So you're getting resiliency, hope, optimism, potential for greatness, compassion, wisdom. I'll ask you, just answer this to yourself. Are these not wonderful, magnificent gifts, trials and tribulations? Are these not wonderful, magnificent gifts? Now, for this to truly work, you need to be saying this to yourself at least 3 times a day. You can look back and see how they were wonderful, magnificent gifts. But right way in the middle of it, you say, wow, thank you, God, for this wonderful, magnificent gift. Wow, it's going to bring me closer to you. Oh, it's beautiful. You don't even know what it is. You don't even know yet what the gift is. You're given it in a package. You haven't opened the package up. I've got this package. It feels like it's killing me, but I know when it gets unwrapped, it's something magnificent in there. Because I know all this is bringing me closer to my highest values, my divine nature, bring me closer to God, bring me closer to my higher nature. These I offer you as proof that the trials and tribulations are indeed a magnificent, wonderful gift. Wonderful. And so I'm suggesting that right in the middle of the trial and tribulation, this will be a path to being grateful because we know good is coming from it. All things work for good for those who seek the good. As it says in Scripture, all things work for good for those who love the Lord. This is transformative. And it's been my privilege to have been brought into these lessons myself. When I was 65, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. The doctor said to me, it's not a little bit, it's an intermediate amount, and it's somewhat aggressive, a Gleason of 7. I was already versed in what I was calling then the Warrior's Commandment of Honor. I used to call them power thoughts back then. My face went numb. I mean, it just went numb. I don't even know how long, maybe 10 seconds, maybe 20. It wasn't too long, but it went numb. And then I said to him something he'll never forget. To this day, I'm sure he remembers it. I said, Doc, that's great. He said, what? I said, that's great. What do you mean? I said, this prostate cancer will make me stronger spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And at that time, I did take the title, strongest drug-free man in the world for my age and weight. I was training at that time as a bench press specialist. And when I left his office that day, I stepped outside. I've always enjoyed nature, but I never saw it the way I did that day. The clouds, the trees, the birds, the sound of birds. People walking by that normally one would think of as strangers. They weren't strangers to me. I just want to go talk to them, embrace them as family or relatives. Some kind of veil lifted. I knew they would look at me as a stranger, but I didn't look at them as strangers. I knew they were busy with their lives going from point A to point B, and if I went to talk to them, they're going to go, hey, what do you want? Do I know you? So I didn't do it. I didn't go up and talk to them. But I felt it. Felt that for people. And it continued, even in my surgery. I joked, I told the anesthesiologist a joke, and he was just laughing. As he wheeled me in on a gurney, he was laughing all the way into the surgery room. Because it stayed with me. In fact, when I went to the hospital, Cedars-Sinai, and I stayed at a hotel nearby because I just wanted to be able to walk there in the morning, I felt I was on pilgrimage. I didn't know if I was going to live or die. Now, fortunately, it was removed before metastasized, so I've been good ever since. But cancer was what it was. I mean, that's the end of the story. Now, one of the commandments of honor, God, your wish is my only wish. There are 3 derivatives of that. So I used that in this situation. I said, God, if you want to take me now, I want to go. I'm ready to go. I want to die from this cancer, if that's what you want. But if you want me to remain here and serve you on earth, then I want to stay here and serve you on earth. Of course, I said, if you have no preference, God, I prefer to stay and serve you here, if you have no preference. Well, it worked out. Either you wanted me to stay here or you had no preference. Here I am 16 years later. People were shocked how relaxed I was. Like, go on, it's going to be something better. Now, I had that moment of my face going numb. Also, I did get stressed for about, on and off, about 3 or 4 days, maybe up to a week, trying to figure out what's the best way to deal with it. You can have radiation, chemo, prostatectomy. So I researched it, talked to other people who have been through it, made a decision prostatectomy, and then I was relaxed. People were shocked. How come you're so relaxed? Wow. God wants to take me. That's great. I feel badly for those I leave behind. They're going to miss me, my loved ones. I said, but if he wants me to stay and serve him, I'm happy to do that. And if he does have a preference, I've already asked him to let me stay and keep serving him here. And it's a good thing because really the whole honor movement really hadn't manifested yet. I was on my way towards it. Really didn't manifest for another 5 years in terms of the full system, which has been evolving over these last 11 years. So I was allowed to stay here and continue to serve. And I tell people this, I say it half seriously and half jokingly. I didn't really know what I was doing until I was 70, not fully. I did some good, hopefully not too much harm. But 70, after the honor movement was born, and now to 81, it just blossomed. So I really didn't fully come into my own until I was 70. So maybe that's why I'm still here, to bring this to you. Okay, so I'm going to ask nurse practitioner Bertrand, is there any comment or question you have about what I've said?
Hi, everyone. Dr. Nerenberg, when I think of the word resiliency, I always think of you have to go through something to become resilient. You have to go through an experience. And to be thankful of your tribulations, to be thankful of your hardships, it really is a mind switch, because you think of those things that are negative, bad, as things that you should not think about and put away and not be thankful for, but switching your thoughts to being grateful for those things, because you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. What doesn't kill you is definitely going to make you stronger. It's a complete switch from your normal day-to-day thinking. So even though it's a different concept to think about and say, but when you look at the grand scheme of things, you should be thankful of your tribulations. That's why you are who you are today. That's what makes you your experiences, which you came through. And just being able to pass that down to maybe help someone who is in the mud and trying to figure their way out, and to say, hey, I got through it. This is just a phase. You will make it through this too. It's really a great thought, and something that, we just have to get used to thinking about it in a different way.
I'm really, really happy that, Bertrand, that you said that. Beautiful. Initially I'm grateful for the power I gained from hardship. I wasn't grateful for the hardship. I'm grateful for the power I gained from hardship. Because I wasn't really grateful at that point for what was going to come from the hardship. I wasn't grateful for the hardship itself. I was grateful for the power I was going to gain. But then it evolved into being grateful for the wonderful, magnificent gift of the trials and tribulation. Look, it still did not reach a point of being wishing for those trials and tribulations. Didn't get to that point where I wish for them, but once it's there, I'm grateful. I know one individual was afraid to be grateful for this because she was afraid that we might get more trials and tribulations. It might bring down more than we want, so we don't want to invite it. So she was afraid. She says she was very worried about that one, because she didn't want to invite trials and tribulations. Excellent, thank you. Tracy, any thoughts or questions you have?
Yes, I actually thought of quite a bit of quotes that I've heard over time, and one of them is one of the laws of honor, when it'll happen on God's time, not mine. It's something to that effect.
That's it. It'll happen God's time, not mine.
Yes. when it comes to, trials and tribulations, and there are no losses, only lessons.
That's another one that you hear people say, yeah.
Yes. And one of my favorites from Bruce Lee is, don't pray for an easy life, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one.
Wow. He was such a wise man.
And there was one, and I don't know exactly how it goes, but Steve Harvey, he said it, and he said, when it comes to trials and tribulations, God saw things in your life that you didn't see. He heard conversations you didn't hear. So he has a plan, and it will happen on it'll happen on your time, or his time, not yours. When it comes to God placing people and situations in your life, or removing them from your life.
Steve Harvey, lovely, lovely, lovely man. What Bruce Lee said related to what he said, I tell myself, number one, my family, and all my people that I've good fortune of all the patients I met, such wonderful, beautiful human beings. When it become disciples of honor and follow the 4 commandments of honor, the bridge, and the honor teachings, I say, we're no longer looking for happiness. You ask most people what they want, they say happiness. We're not looking for that. Because we're looking for honor. We look to manifest honor in our lives. And we know that honor is the foundation for true happiness. Without honor, you could have fun, entertainment, excitement, but you can't have true happiness. So honor is the foundation for true happiness. So we who follow the way of honor, seek to manifest the teachings of honor and apply them in our lives. It's a paradigm shift. This is a paradigm shift. We're not looking for pleasure, although it's always nice when it comes along. We're not looking for enjoyment. Oh, that's really nice. We all want to have a good time. We're not looking for fun, although certainly it's great to have fun. But our priority is to harvest the honor that's already within us, for the honor to manifest. So I call them commandments of honor because we're commanding the honor that's already within our being to manifest into consciousness in terms of thoughts, words, and actions. That's very good, my dear goddaughter. Stacy, any comments or questions that you have?
Yeah, I enjoyed this talk a lot. I especially liked when you shared the story of the client who lost his wife and the house and everything, and then found himself in that. And I feel like sometimes when we are stripped down completely in our most, like in our rawness, that is when we really do get to look at ourselves and see ourselves. And it's funny that you said you don't want to, or your client said not to invite in more trials and tribulations. I love that. And because sometimes you do, you think, well, if I say this, right, am I bringing in more? Because sometimes it does come trial, tribulation, day after day, year after year, and it's like a season of your life can even be filled with these. But I love that, and I do think from our pain we source our power and we become better versions of ourselves each time. And I love you sharing your journey with us, because I hope to be in my honor when I'm your age, in the way you are sharing it. Like, I love the process, and you are such a good example of what it looks like. So I really am grateful for this one today.
Thank you, Stacy. You'll go way beyond me, because at your age, you're so much more advanced than I was at your age, and now you're getting this knowledge on top of it. So you'll be going beyond me. Absolutely, I'm sure of that. And I think women even have more of a capacity to go to great spiritual heights. So that's the good news for you. That's a wonderful thing. Frank, any thoughts or questions or comments that you might want to make?
No, not much. But I'm with Stacy on that one. I mean, I like that when we tell the story about the big guy. You know, he says he lost everything but gained himself. I think that's very telling. We all experience that at some point. Very consistent with everything else, you know. But no, not many questions. Just listening, absorbing it. You know, all your input is always very helpful and enlightening. So.
And I have all the respect for you as well, Frank. I mean, you're a deep guy. And I'm a little biased here, a fellow New Yorker. Who knows about Carlton Avenue? Who's heard of Carlton Avenue, my old neighborhood? Frank, can't believe I knew about Carlton Avenue. Well, anybody else have any comments or questions you'd like to make?
Yeah, Doctor, I'd just like to say that, you know, not only do we gain strength from our trials and tribulations, but we also gain wisdom and knowledge. I really appreciated what you said today about the gentleman that lost his wife and really didn't want to be around her all that much, because today is the 10th year anniversary of my youngest sister passing. And she was such a pain in the tail the last 5 years of her life. And I have nothing but good memories